moving on to our consent agenda. Looks like we have 8 items. Mac?
Okay, on the consent agenda, you have item number 1 is approval of the small purchase of $2,519.96 for USA Remote Program for the San Juan County Road Department. That goes into their equipment that they do for their vehicles. It's all set up through that vehicle, kind of like an emission system, if I understand it correct. Then you have the approval of the July 16th, 2024 Board of Commission meeting minutes. You have the approval of the July 12th through 2024 to August 1st, 2024 check registers. Item number 4 is the approval of the January to June 2024. That's the first and second quarter financial statements. So if you remember back a couple months ago, you had received the first quarter. Now you're at mid-year. So you can take a look and review those mid-year of where all the departments are in their line item budgets. Item number 5 is approval of the Public Health Emergency and the Healthcare Preparedness Programs contract with the Department of Health and Human Services and San Juan County for the fiscal year 2022, amendment number 3. You have the item number 6 is the approval of the San Juan County Minimum Performance Standard Contract with the State of Utah Department of Health and Human Services and San Juan County for state fiscal year 2022, amendment number 3 as well on that one. Item number 7 is the approval and reappointment of Doug Christensen to the San Juan Health District Board for an additional 4-year terms expiring in 2028. So his is just a renewal. Item number 8 is the approval of a new appointment of Brad Bunker to a 4-year term expiring December of 2028, representing the Monticello area of the San Juan Water Conservancy District Board. We've had on that board, it's hard to replace individuals, and so we're glad that Brad has stepped forward and taken that position. It used to be occupied by Nate Langston here in Monticello, worked for Monticello. He had quit Monticello and moved out of the area, and so he's no longer able to be a participant on that board. And so they had recommended as a board to appoint Brad Bunker for that. Other than that, commissioners, that is your consent agenda items for today.
Commissioners, you have any questions or comments?
No, I'd like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Motion by Commissioner Adams.
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, no questions or comments, so let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Say aye. Aye. That's 3 in favor. All the items for the consent agenda has been approved and passed. Moving on to our business and action items. Mac?
Okay, this first one here is a presentation and approval of the 2023 fiscal year audit report by Larson and Company. We have John Hatterley, who's our independent auditor, here to give a presentation. Everything all good about the county. Thanks, John.
You don't have to make any comments about the stock market yesterday.
Whose fault it is or what?
No comment.
The retirement funds better shrunk since.
You'll need to change your minutes, so it's not an approval.
Okay,
To accept it.
acceptance.
All right. As soon as Bruce falls asleep, I'm going to sit down. So
Nope.
this is going to be the most boring part of your day.
We'll change
Everybody
the
likes to talk
recording
about the
then.
audit.
I won't fall asleep.
You guys are so consistent, though. That's a good thing. If I have to change my report, that means there's bad things happening.
Uh-oh.
All right, so we finalized the audit. I think most of the county audit was done a few months ago. We were just kind of waiting on some component units to get finished up, and then we worked through some issues at the very end with Mac and Peter. So we appreciate their input, and just I want to have you guys, when you talk to Mac and Peter and Lyman, give them a pat on the back. They do a good job. Like I just said, I mean, San Juan is so consistent. It's good to know when I come down or when my team comes down, I can look at the trial balance and I can spot the issues that are, going to have adjustments because of that consistency. And typically it's fairly clean. So if you want to open to page 1 of the bound copy, that's the audit report, and that always precedes the financial statements. Our opinion is now at the beginning section. The second paragraph is our opinion paragraph, and that is an unmodified or an unqualified opinion. I know it doesn't use those terms, but in our world, unmodified or unqualified means that we didn't have to modify our report or change our report in any manner. If we change it, like I told Bruce, if we change our report, that's typically we're not going to give an opinion on something because we either can't test it, there's not enough data, the data is not complete, or there's material misstatements in the financial statements that we can't get past, and we don't know what the adjustment should be, so that changes the audit report. That third paragraph is kind of a new reporting that we're required to put in the audit report this year, and that just outlines what we did not audit as part of the financial statements, which units, and those are the component units, so the mental health and substance abuse service district, and then the San Juan Health Service District, and those represent 70%, 72%, and 94% of the discrete component units. And I'll kind of explain to you what we're giving an opinion on, so that'll make more sense as you read through it. And then the San Juan Transportation District, that does not receive an audit. We just do agreed upon procedures because it's so small. It doesn't require its own audit. But as far as our opinion goes, because it's so small, it's really scoped out of our opinion. The rest of the report just talks about our responsibility, or where we get our basis for our opinion, the standards that we have to follow, as well as what your responsibilities are for the financial statements. These are your financial statements. You as a commission should know what's in the financial statements throughout the year. And we'll talk a little bit about that later on. And then our responsibility is to come in and we start with your trial balance. We break all the trial balance down into different categories, small enough that we can perform tests to make sure that the numbers are accurate as to what you're reporting. And then those roll up into the financial statements. And we, on the second page, page 2, you can see what we have to do as part of a government auditing standards report. We have to exercise professional judgment and maintain professional skepticism. And we'd like to explain, or it's easily understood to say we trust but verify. We think that you're trying to do what's right. We don't think that somebody's intentionally doing something wrong, but our job is to come in here and verify and validate what you're doing. We look at your internal controls. We make sure that you actually have controls in place, and B, that they're functioning. And for you, everybody who knows me well enough, that's kind of my soapbox. I teach a lot of classes on internal controls, fraud detection, things like that. That's how you protect yourself as a county, is controls. That's really the only thing that you can dictate internally on misappropriation of assets or manipulation of the financial data, is the controls that are in place that really protects that data. So that's kind of important. We don't give an opinion on your controls. We have other procedures that we do, that we come in separate from an audit that actually test the controls to make sure that they're functioning the way they should. So that's not a part of the scope of a financial statement audit, but we do look at the controls to make sure that they are functioning. That helps us validate data. We look at how you use the accounting principles. There's always new accounting principles that are coming out, and we make sure that you're doing that appropriately. And then we look if there's conditions or events inside the county that would prohibit you from continuing as a going concern or continuing to operate at least for the next 12 months. And that kind of came about because of COVID. And I think we talked about this last year. COVID kind of upset the whole country. And inside the state of Utah, most of the governments actually did better than expected. It was expected that there would be a lot of shortfall. As you guys know, there was a lot of federal money that started flowing into the counties because outside of the state of Utah, that wasn't the case. There were a lot of governments that really, really struggled. And so now, as part of the financial statement audit, both you as a county and we as auditors have to look for conditions or events that would affect how you operate in the next, short term. because people went out of business or governments couldn't survive and they had to go out and get even more federal help, or they had to go issue more debt just to keep operating. Nobody wanted to talk about it in the financial statements. And so people who rely on your financial statements to lend you money, or to, your bondholders, things like that. If you all of a sudden fold up shop and you didn't disclose, hey, we're really struggling, we're not gonna make it the next 12 months, then they're relying on that data, and then they put themselves at risk, and then they lose that. So that's just a new part that we had to add to the audit report this year. Required supplementary information. So the management's discussion and analysis that always follows the audit report. And then there's a section called the required supplementary information after the notes to the financial statements. Those two sections are not audited. They're not part of the basic financial statements, but the GASB board says that they always have to accompany the financial statements. So it gets confusing for people because there's different sections that are audited. There's some that are not audited. And they're trying to pull data and make analysis off of information that really isn't audited information. And then there's a section called supplementary information, and these are things that you choose to include in your financial statements that are not required, or the state requires you to add that information, or some external party. But it's all information that's derived from information within the financial statement. So supplementary information for the county is the combining statements for your non-major funds. Typically, they're not presented in the financial statements. They're just all grouped together because they're small. And then the schedule of federal awards, that's the money that you spent that you received from federal awards. That's required by the federal government. All right, so just a couple quick things. If you want to turn to page, let's get a brief, I think it helps you understand the financial statements a little bit better. So I'll let you know kind of what the opinions we give. So page 14, this is the government-wide financial statements, page 14 and page 15. So this is your balance sheet and your income statement for a governmental entity. And these are presented on the full accrual. So these are presented as like a traditional business, so full accrual accounting. So you have governmental activities, and those are all your governmental funds rolled up. And then the business type activities, or any enterprise funds or business type funds that are rolled up. So we give an opinion on each column. So the governmental activities receives an opinion, business type activities receives an opinion. And then you can see that last column on that page is your component units. So that would be the mental health, that would be the San Juan Hospital, and then that would be the transportation district. Those three entities are combined there. So in that paragraph that I talked about in the audit report, that's the opinion on there. And our opinion for the majority of that is just relying on other auditors who give an opinion on their own financial statements. All right, if you flip over a couple of pages, page 16. So these are your governmental funds. So you have the general fund, that's always your primary operating fund. And all other funds are set up for specific purposes. So you have the Class B Road Fund, Tax Stability Trust Fund, and then you'll see a column, Other Governmental Funds. So that is a combination of all of your non-major funds. So in the combining statements, it presents all the funds separately so that you can see each one of those funds. But each one of these gets an opinion. So we're not just giving one opinion on the financial statements, it's multiple opinions. It just so happens that all of the opinions are unmodified, so we just roll them into one opinion. That's the difference between a private entity and a government. A government has multiple opinions in the financial statements. And then the fund statements, just for your understanding, this is what you're going to see when Mac and Peter present financial reports to you. You're going to see individual fund statements. You're not going to see the government-wide, because everything you do is on the modified accrual. So you can think about it as kind of, it's quasi-cash basis. So as money comes in, it's revenue. As money goes out, it's an expense. You don't have long-term assets. You don't have long-term debt presented on your financial statements in a government. All right, so let's flip back to page, and I'll be quick on these because these are kind of repetitive reports from prior years. Page 69. So this report we're required to issue just states that we performed your audit in accordance with government auditing standards. There are certain requirements that we have to add to our audits if it's a governmental audit. There's standards under the Yellow Book, which is the federal guidance for governmental audits. And sometimes they're a lot more strict than a private company audit. And in that report, if there are material weaknesses in controls or significant deficiencies, we would identify them in that report. However, there were none, so we don't have anything to report. The next report on page 71 is a report we're required to issue for the state auditor's office. This outlines the compliance sections that we tested this year. So your budgetary compliance, fund balance, justice courts, restricted taxes, fraud risk assessment, and these change every year just based on what the state auditor feels like he wants to test. We do give an opinion on your compliance, and that is an unmodified opinion. But I always have to throw the caveat in there that it's not a legal opinion, that you're legally following the law. We'll leave that up to Attorney Ivins. We're not attorneys, and I don't want to be an attorney. And it's also not an opinion that covers the entire sections of the Utah Code. It's very narrow in scope to what we specifically look at. And I think there was one finding that we're going to talk about, but we look at your budgetary compliance, making sure that you're within budget. And then the justice courts, we're looking at the controls down there now. We used to test a lot more with controls, but it became very non-financial. And so I pushed back a lot on the state auditor to say, hey, why are we doing this? This is not us as auditors. We can't determine the intent of a judge. And so, why are we testing this as auditors? And so now we're testing just to make sure that there's controls in place, that the money that they collect or things that they do in there, it makes it back to the bank, it makes it back to the county, it's flowing through the county records. Restricted taxes. So restricted taxes, any money that you receive that have restrictions attached to that, we make sure that they're being spent appropriately and they're being spent in the right way. Like the Class B road money that you get, that is restricted money, so you can only spend it on roads. And we make sure that that's happening. The fraud risk assessment, the only thing we test on this is we make sure that you present it in a commission meeting and that it's signed and submitted to the state. I don't care what you put on there because I hate that thing. That this is the most awful document that the state's ever come out, and I've said it in every public meeting, and I've had conversations with the state auditors nonstop about it. Because us as auditors, we're going to do our own fraud risk. Every year we come, my staff does their own fraud assessment and our own control testing. And you submitting a document that is a pancake blanket document for the entire state of Utah does not make any sense, because San Juan County is different than Davis County. You have different risks based on who is the governing body, the education levels, the amount of technology that you have. In Davis County, there's a lot bigger pool of candidates, that are going to work for the government. They all come with their own risks. Maybe somebody has less, a little bit less ethical problems than somebody else. My problem with the fraud risk assessment is they're going to give you a score. And most rural counties or rural cities cannot score very high on the fraud risk assessment, meaning that to the state auditor, you have a high propensity for fraud. Well, if they're publicly putting that out, then somebody who maybe doesn't have the best ethics says, well, San Juan County doesn't have a very good, or that there's a really high fraud risk. So if I get a job there and my intent is I'm going to steal money, probably a good chance I'll get away with it, because, obviously to this report is saying that there's not the controls in place. However, that's not the case. From what we see in our audits is there are mitigating controls that take place of whether or not you have an internal auditor, or you have an audit committee, or you have a CPA on staff. I mean, those are the three highest point values, and most rural counties can't say that they have that. Or I would say virtually in the state of Utah, I don't know that anybody's really, if they have an audit committee, they're not using it the way it should be, and it's not functioning the right way, but they're giving themselves the points. But you have other controls in place that mitigate that, just like you as commissioners reviewing all of the expenditures that are going out. You're approving the check register for the last 2 weeks. You just did that this morning. So by you reviewing that, that's a control that mitigates a risk. And so you don't have the opportunity to describe those things in that fraud risk assessment. That's why I don't like it. It's not that I don't believe in controls. I absolutely do. That document just is not serving the purpose that it's meant to. But keep doing it. If you don't do it, then the state gets mad. All right. The next report we're required to issue is for the federal government for your single audit. It used to be the OMB 133. That's how everybody knew it. Now we just know it as uniform guidance. And what we do is we look at all of the federal programs that you received, and you can see all those on page 75 and 76. And then based on the amount of money that you spent in each program, they get ranked in a hierarchy, and then we select major programs. So major programs can be determined by the amount of money that you spend, or if we are notified by the granting agency that it's considered high risk. So all of the COVID money was considered high risk because it was a new program, and there was a lot of, they just basically gave you money and said, we trust you to spend it the right way. Well, there was a lot of fraud in COVID, so it was high risk. And so we were required to test that as a major program. So sometimes you might have one or two major programs that we test, and sometimes we have some entities that have 17 to 20 programs that we have to test. So we give an opinion on your compliance as well as your control, and that's an unmodified opinion as well. So no issues with the federal single audit. Everything's been submitted now to the state or to the federal government through their website. There weren't any material weaknesses that we were required to identify, nor significant deficiencies either in the financial statements or in the federal audit. And they are two separate audits. I should kind of state that we're kind of doing two separate audits at the same time. Let's see. The only finding that we need to talk about, so that's in the schedule of findings and question costs. So that's on page 79. So this year there was one state compliance finding, and that is that counties under Utah code are required to present quarterly financial reports to the commission in a public meeting. And that's what you approved this morning. So obviously it's being done now. And I think that this was partially a changeover in staff, having James leave, and then just some general understanding and some training that needed to happen. But as soon as we talked to the county about it, that obviously started happening. This actually is a finding that I like. I don't like to give findings, but this is one of those findings where I don't mind giving it, because you as a commission need to understand financially what's going on. You can't just leave that to the finance staff to say, hey, you just run the reports, making sure the transparency gets uploaded, making sure the things are good in the audit. You cannot make good decisions as a commission if you financially don't know where you're at during the year. So you really can't wait for the audit to come around to understand. So I really like this finding, because I think that this is something that will benefit you as a commission, is to review those financial reports, all the departments, how they're functioning, how to set budgets, things like that. You can get all that from the financial statements. So our recommendation is just that it happens. And then obviously the response from management is, yes, they agree. It wasn't happening, but now it is. So I don't see that being a problem going forward. I'm not going to spend time to go over the staple together. This is communication to you as a commission. This does not go with the financial statements. So when you send the financial statements out to other people, that's not part of what goes along with it. This is just our communication to you. It just talks about the scope and timing of our audit, and then things that we have to go through, findings, things like that, adjustments. Nothing that really is entertaining to the public. So if you have any questions on it, please reach out to me. I love to talk, and I want you guys to understand and know what's in the reports. So, any questions?
I just want to make a comment about the financial statement. It helps me because it's break down through the years. They're having the whole year too many numbers.
Yep.
But I appreciate having that information. I went over it twice. First in the beginning and then last night we had good company, me and the report and your report. So I appreciate the work you have done.
And I will give a recommendation on reading the audit report. If you will start with the management's discussion analysis, that's one of the reasons why it's always required to be there, because it's more of a Reader's Digest version of what's in the financial statements, and it's more dialogue than it is just getting down in the weeds of the numbers.
Yeah.
So that section actually is the most beneficial probably to read. So that's where I would start if you don't like getting down in the weeds of the numbers. So
No, it's good. I mean, I learned a lot, so thank you.
Okay, thank you, John. I'll make a motion that we accept the 2023 fiscal year audit report from Larson and Company.
Thanks, John.
Motion to accept by Commissioner Adams,
And,
Okay.
I'll
Make those
second it.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments, commissioners?
No, they do a
No,
good
it's just-
job.
We just want to thank the team, our team and your team for the work.
Okay, let's vote. All those in favor to accept?
Aye.
It's 3 in favor, motion carries. Our audit's been accepted. Moving on to our next item, item number 10.
All right, let me get there real fast. So you have it on the screen.
Looks like Lyman here.
So yeah, this one is consideration and adoption of a resolution of the San Juan County Board of Commissioners appointing blank as the county attorney, completing the term being vacated officially on August 16, 2024 by the elected county attorney Brittany Evans, which term expires. It's not December 31st, but it should be August 16th, 2026.
No, that,
Oh,
Brittany's-
sorry, yeah.
Brittany's
So
term
term expires
expires
December
31st,
Good catch.
2026.
Sorry, I'm running two different directions. My head. All right, Lyman, our clerk auditor, will explain
Okay,
the process.
thank you very much. On June 28th, received a letter that is in your packet that I distributed, that County Attorney Brittany Ivans has resigned and is going on to other opportunities. Based on that, I contacted the Utah State Bar and asked them for attorneys that were in good standing with the Utah Bar Association that lived in San Juan County. She sent me 5. I became aware of another, Judge Manley, who retired, and it actually lives in Spanish Valley. And so I then went to the next step, which was, and I have a sample letter in here. I used L. Robert Anderson's as a sample. I contacted these 6 attorneys and sent them a letter and stated that the county attorney Brittany Ivans is retiring, and as a registered voter and licensed active attorney in good standing who resides in San Juan County, you are invited to apply. So that was the letter that they got. And based on that, I received 3 applications, or 2 sent in resumes and 1 just sent an email stating that they were interested. Kendall Laws sent one in, previous county attorney. Craig C. Halls sent in a letter declaring his interest in candidacy. He's also been a former county attorney. And then Mitchell Munn, deputy county attorney, submitted his resume. With these 3, I then sent a letter to the San Juan County Republican Party, consisting of Sheila Knight, Nicole Perkins, Marjorie Hahn, and Jenny Brooks, that the county attorney was resigning effectively August 16, 2024, and I utilized Utah State Code 20A-1-509.2, parenthesis 1 through 3, for the procedure, and went through the steps that I went through, and I submitted the 3 names to them, and I asked them to rank the 3 candidates, and if possible to have them return to me before August 6th, which is today, so it could be on the agenda. I received a letter back from Sheila Knight, Marjorie Hahn, Nicole Perkins, and Jenny Brooks, the leadership of the San Juan County Republican Party, and they ranked the 3 attorneys that had submitted their resumes or expressed interest in the position. and it will be for the remaining 2 years and a couple months of Brittany's term. And the county attorney at that time will declare their candidacy, run for office if they choose to, if that's their desire. So it's last 2 years and 4 months.
All right, commissioners.
I'll make a motion. Based on the letter we got from the Republican Party and the resumes that were sent in, I will make a motion to have Mitchell Mon replace Brittany for the rest of her term.
Can I make a comment before the
You
motion?
should second before you make
Okay,
a comment.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, you can comment.
I
there.
just, I wanted you to know I had given a lot of thought. This is one of the hardest decisions that we make, I think. But eventually, I decide to honor the decision of the Republican Party. And where it's in a position that is not a permanent position, because in 2 years, 2+ months, it's going to be an election. And at that time, I feel like the people of San Juan County can speak up for their choice. And so I know there are 3 good candidates that we had. And so I just want to kind of make some comments about that this was not an easy decision, but I am supporting the Republican Party and the decision.
Any other comments to the motion, commissioners? Seeing none, let's all vote. All in favor?
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Motion carries for Mitch as the county attorney. Awesome. Moving on to our next item, number 11.
Okay, item number 11 is consideration and adoption of a resolution by the Board of San Juan County Commissioners that the form of amended cafeteria plan, including a health flexible spending account and dependent care flexible spending account effective January 1st, 2024, authorizing a representative of San Juan County, the administration of the plan, one or more counterparts of the plan. We have our Director of HR, Crystal Brake, give us an explanation of what all that means.
So this is National Benefit Services is who provides our cafeteria plan, aka our flexible spending. They have been administering this for us for several years, and we just need your permission to continue with them. They do a good job.
Make a motion that we continue with the cafeteria plan and flexible spending as explained by Crystal.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions?
Well, I thought we were going to have a cafeteria and it's broken.
Yeah, I wish that too, but
Yeah,
so
it's just a health savings program. HSA card. That's all we get.
Okay, let's vote then. All those in favor?
I
That's 3
Perfect.
in favor. Motion carries.
thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for
Thanks,
everything.
Crystal.
Moving
Okay, the
on.
next one on here, we've got consideration and approval for the San Juan Children's Justice Center Advisory Board bylaws. We've got Director of our CJC program here, Robert.
Well, thank you. It's a pleasure being here again. Seems like I'm seeing you guys way more than I should be, shouldn't I? First of all, we're taking the next step in getting the advisory board set up. So the bylaws were kind of put together as a draft plan. Want to get permission to move forward with the advisory board. Our first meeting is scheduled for the 8th, 2 days from now. So, and if they aren't approved, then we'll figure something else out. But we'll still meet and try to hash out whatever changes need to be made for those bylaws.
kind of a little bit background on when we established the advisory boards throughout the county. The commission gets an opportunity to appoint those board members. You've seen that today on the consent agenda item with two other boards that we have. This one here, where it has specific to positions, this governing document gives them just kind of those rules that they need to follow as advisory board for you. And so that's why they come before the commission to establish the bylaws. If there's any changes that we ever need to make, they've got to come back to the commission for approval as well. But this kind of gives them that operating document that helps guide them along the way.
There is one statement then, the way you said that, I ought to make clarification. There's one statement at the very end that does talk about, and we may need to make an adjustment to that. I think it's the last paragraph even on that says that if there's changes that the chair and vice chair can make a change and present that at the next advisory board meeting and make that change. And if that's the case, then we need to include bringing it back to the board for final approval so that it can be reviewed by the commission as well. So that will have to be added the way Mac just stated that. So we'll have to add that to the statement. Other than that, any questions on anything in the bylaws?
I'll make a motion to approve the draft San Juan County CJC bylaws as presented.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Approving the draft as stated. How about the amendment?
He's going to bring that back.
I'll bring that back.
Okay.
If they make any changes.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a feeling we may change some of the dates. It's stated January, April, July, and October for our meetings. That may change on our first meeting depending on when everybody feels it's the most appropriate. So we may already have a change that may come up. So it'll be back in front of you, most likely anyway. So
Okay. All right. Motion for the draft, seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. Let's go ahead and vote. Then, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries to approve the draft. We'll see it again next
thank you.
month.
Okay, thank you.
I'll be there Friday and Saturday.
Perfect. Sounds good. Look forward to
Yeah.
working with you. Okay.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you.
Okay, item 13 on here is consideration and approval to update the interlocal agreement between San Juan County and Grand County for a trail system in the region. Cool. This is Elaine is here to give us this presentation. See, Elaine, you may still be on mute. Or maybe not. All right, if not, I'll take it over. This is the amendment 1 to the interlocal agreement. Prior to me arriving here in the county, we had been working with Grand County.
There she is.
Are you there, Elaine? No, we can't. Still can't hear you. Now she's on mute. Try unmuting again and see if it'll work. You spoke earlier. We heard you. Nope, nothing. So our previous Economic and Visitor Services Director had worked with Grand County's Economic Development Director and formulated kind of this guiding document that really both counties, would approach the trail system on a region basis. And then, if there were opportunities for funding, we would come together to try to create a trail network that extended in both sides, especially in Spanish Valley. There's one proposed trail network that begins in Grand County and goes right up to the border, and it stops at San Juan County. And then on our side of it, staff would be working with property owners to try to get easements and right-of-ways to continue the trail. Say, for example, if somebody wanted to ride their bike from our side of Spanish Valley to work in Moab, they would have a complete trail system that they could travel on. And so that was kind of the premise of this agreement, where it was signed and executed back in 2019. Obviously, there's been some changes of individuals that were originally listed on that agreement, and so this change here on the interlocal agreement is really just to update the individuals that need to sign the document and kind of help oversee it. On our side of it, it had that, you know, the document was attested by our clerk auditor, but yet it wasn't attested by the Grand County clerk auditor. So it's really just minor structural changes, and really this is kind of the guiding document that we're also, as we move into transitioning the state of Utah's funds for the Mud Springs Trail, we're using this document as the overall premise that gives us that ability to transfer the funds to Grand County, and then Grand County works on implementing and making the trail actually happen with those funds that we had received. So this is really that contractual document that sets up the Mud Spring Trail project in total. And so this is one of those opportunities when they say that we don't get along with Grand County and Grand County doesn't get along with us. This is one of those that proves them wrong, you know, that we do come together to make sure on a regional basis that we're taking care of the citizens and that we're mindful of these opportunities.
I'll make a motion to approve. Go ahead, I'll second.
Yep, I'll make a motion to sustain the amendment, number 1 to the interlocal agreement between San Juan County, Utah and Grand County, Utah.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs, second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions? Okay, seeing. Go
I
ahead,
think this
Commissioner.
is a good thing that we can work with Grand County, and Elaine has been really good at doing that, and she's still working and doing things for us. Thank you, Elaine. Can you hear us?
She can hear.
Okay.
Okay. All right, let's take a vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 3 in favor. Motion carries to approve. Awesome. Thank you, commissioners. Next item.
Okay, continuing with that thought, item 14 is consideration and approval of the assignment agreement between San Juan County and Grand County. And this is, you know, with the Mud Springs Trail, it's assigning, so the county reached out to the state of Utah, applied for grant funding for this project. With it came a match obligation that the county had. This agreement allows us to also migrate the state of Utah contract to Grand County, so they would take over that grant obligation, the reporting obligations. We would also transfer our portion of the match to Grand County, which is around $40,000, which would transfer to that project. When you look at capacity right now, they really are the ones that have the capacity to make sure that the trail is constructed. They're able to monitor the construction of that, and also on the reporting back to the state, meeting that obligation. They have a few more staff than San Juan County does right now to be able to make that happen. And then whatever the future holds from there, we'll have to see. But this gets it first lined up in Grand County's court.
Okay, commissioners.
Did you make a motion?
Need a
I'll second the motion.
motion by Commissioner Stubbs, second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions,
I
commissioners?
just wanna, I know this is Elaine's baby. I mean, she wanted to see those trails finished, and sometimes life sends us on a different journey. And I hope she can come and go biking in those trails. When we have, we need to build an airport so you can come more often. But thank you so much, and I know what this means to you, and that the dreams goes on. Thank you.
Okay, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor. Motion carries. On to our next item, number 15.
Okay, this one here is consideration and approval of the standard service provider contract between Trihurst Construction and San Juan County to repair and replacement of the roof and the exterior trim on the county administration building. This is Sam, our Director of Facilities.
Good morning,
Good
Morning.
almost afternoon. So this project is one that is, well, all of our facilities projects seem to be pretty long past due because of the condition of our buildings, but the roof, this is for the replacement of the roof on this building. We do have several leaks. We have kind of a mix of different roofing materials of different ages, and really just needs to be taken care of, as well as a lot of the exterior trim and metal work on the face of this farthest west portion of the building.
I make a motion to approve the
Very much.
contract with Trihurst.
Okay, motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, no questions. Let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
That's 3 in favor. Project's been.
Sam, are they going to be able to get that done this year?
Yes.
Next item, 16.
Okay, 16 is consideration and approval of the standard service provider contract between Trihurst Construction and San Juan County for the concrete replacement at the county admin building here.
Another project that's past due. Several of the entrances to this building, as you've probably noticed, are covered with steel. Some steel steps and railing that was done to try to kind of postpone replacement of the concrete work. Those are now corroded to the point where that also needs to be replaced. That's what this project will take care of.
Motion to approve.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
seconded by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, I don't think we have any questions, so let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It's 3 in favor. Motion carries. Next item, number
Okay, this
17.
next one is 17, consideration and approval of standard service provider contract between Red Mechanical LLC and San Juan County for the replacement of the boiler, HVAC piping, and domestic water piping in the county administration building.
So on this project, it says we're replacing the boiler and heating system that serves a lot of the building. Some of the portions of the building have been replaced by other smaller systems, but this project also is we're pretty dire need of this. I have found proposals going back decades for replacement of the boiler. Hasn't been done yet. So we've been on borrowed time for a long time on this. We did have one late change on this project. We first received the request for proposals on this back in, I believe it was May. And in the meantime, we've been waiting for proposals for some of these other projects to see where we stood budget-wise. Being that their initial proposal was old, they reviewed it and they did make an adjustment. So I have an updated contract here. They did adjust their pricing by $9,000. They added $9,000 to their proposal.
$9,000 cheaper or higher?
Higher. Yep, just in the intervening months, I believe it is equipment and materials prices have gone up in the intervening 3
So
months.
we're going to replace the boiler, do away with the boiler. It's all HVAC.
Well, they're going to replace the existing boiler with 2 new high-efficiency condensing boilers. The existing boiler runs steam through the building. The new boilers will run a hot water system. They will also be replacing the controls for each of the radiators that use that system.
So we can adjust the temperature of this room independently.
Well, this room is one of those areas that is served by a different system. This the top floor of this section of the building is run by a rooftop unit, so it won't be affected by this project.
We need cold water in that room over there.
Yeah, and that's part of the project, as well as replacing the domestic hot and cold water piping, just
You know, I
because
was
of its
thinking
age
for the
and
heating system for Mac, he needs some cold water.
yeah,
For me, it'd just be nice not to have to drink rust every morning.
yeah. That's the issue with the domestic water piping. There's old enough that if it sits over a weekend, you get orange water for the first few minutes you run the water. So
I'll make a motion to approve the contract to replace the boiler and HVAC and piping.
I'll second it.
Motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. I just think that all this maintenance, repair, and attention is all because of Lori coming into office. That's why you guys are rushing. All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
So, vote 3, motion carries.
and who needs this updated contract to
I
sign?
give it to Rosa. Rosa
Okay.
will be able to take care of it for you.
Okay, great. Thank
So-
you.
Thank you so much.
On to our next item, number 18.
Okay, this one here is consideration and approval of a sole source contract between San Juan County and Lyle Northern Electric Incorporated for the installation of a backup generator for the County Emergency Operations Center.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
So this would be all grant funding, and it is to provide a backup generator for the EOC that will provide electricity. If the power's out and we have the EOC running, the Emergency Operations Center, it'll be put on the back of the building. Should have weekly tests run and everything, but it is all grant
You
funding.
say all grant funding?
Yes, no
Motion to
match.
approve.
Motion by Commissioner Adams,
I'll second it.
second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other questions, comments? None?
No,
Okay.
I just, thank you. I mean, you need to have a different color hat for every program that you come here, so we can see all the colors of hats you wear, so.
Different colored hats or maybe sticky tabs
Yeah.
or something.
So
Yeah.
we know.
You know which hat I'm wearing when I come up to talk
Thank
to you.
so
Yeah.
much.
You're welcome.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Tammy.
Thanks.
Let's vote then. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's 3 in favor. Motion carries unanimously. Next item, number
Okay,
19.
number 19, consideration and approval of public health emergency and health preparedness programs contract with the Utah Department of Health and Human Services and San Juan County for fiscal year 2024 through 2028. Grant, Public Health Director.
Now we can say good afternoon.
Oh, you set
Yeah.
off the alarm.
Oh, right there, right on time or something, right? Yeah. Buenos dias. So here we have a contract that I had mentioned last time we met. Last time we were talking about the Medical Reserve Corps special grant that we have now to get that started, and then once that contract is up, sustaining it would be part of this contract, which is our standard, sometimes we call it FEP, Public Health Emergency and Preparedness Program. It also includes the healthcare preparedness as well. This is for this year, it'd be reimbursed $125,610 with federal funds. It does require a local match of 10%, which has been consistent over the years, and it is something that does it can be counted as part of the minimum performance standards contribution from the county to the health department, which was in the consent agenda today. The second page here on, let's see, page 289 highlights the top 5 hazards that have been identified together with Tammy Gallegos and other partners in terms of what's unique to San Juan County. So you can see kind of how that it was based on a risk score, probability, health severity, things like that. And here we have supply shortage, cyber attack. We know that all too well here in the county from a couple of years ago, wildfire, flood, and electrical failure. So Mike Moulton, our emergency response coordinator, his time is largely funded by this contract. he is working on a work plan to describe how we're going to work on this. And this is the beginning of a new 5 years for this contract. And so that's my overview of this. And yeah, welcome any questions or comments, and appreciate your guidance on this and your involvement as various emergency related things, be it preparedness or response, come up, that we do collaborate and communicate with you directly on these things.
All right, commissioners. What, what, what would you like to do for this
I
programs
just trying to
contract?
figure out the name for sure.
Public health, emergency, and healthcare preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, sorry. Let me go
Well,
back
still,
up.
thank you so much.
Hey,
for
thanks,
coming.
John, you guys. See ya.
Programs
Be careful.
contract.
It's
Yeah, I'll be
approved.
there.
Be sure you hit the golf course before you leave town.
Yeah.
Okay,
Thanks.
I make a motion to approve a public health emergency and health care preparedness program for the year 24 to 28.
Yeah.
Wow,
4-year grant. yeah.
4 year. Yes.
thank you.
Second.
Cuatro años. Second by Commissioner Adams. Okay. Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Recommendations? The only recommendation I think I would make is I know the cyber attacks have been quite frequent lately, especially in our county. A lot of phishing attacks, and
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how old our county system is, but it's probably time to step up our game in regards to protecting our information as a county. So,
Good.
but that's just my thoughts, Okay, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 It's 3 in
Thank you so
favor.
much.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Grant.
Gracias. Thank you. Okay.
Thanks, Grant.
See you all.
Moving on to item 20.
21, 22, 21, 21,
20.
20. Sorry.
Brittany.
So consideration and approval for the first supplemental memorandum of agreement for prosecutorial services between the Utah Attorney General's office and San Juan County Attorney's office. This is Brittany.
So this one's very similar to the one that you've previously signed, where we agreed with the AG's office to have them help me on a homicide case that I had from 2023, where the county would pay $10,000 to the AG's office for that help. And since then, I did have another homicide case completely separate from this one, asking for additional help. And so I was able to negotiate with the AG's office, and they were so generous in offering their services without additional compensation. So it's still just the $10,000, just adding in that they're going to help on another case as well.
Thank you.
Cool. All right, commissioners. Just, what do they call that? Pro bono?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion
I'll second
Motion
it.
to approve Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. All right, let's vote. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
It's 3 in favor. Motion approved unanimously. Moving on to item,
I have
20.
a comment.
comment, Commissioner Stubbs.
You know, Commissioner Adams goes around the state talking about his 5th graders. And I want to talk about my preschooler. And I have so many of them, they're growing up and being all these important people. And I just feel like it was a privilege to work with you. And I just, on behalf of the rest, I just want to wish you the best in your new journey. And I just want to say a little story about her little boy. I was waiting for the rodeo to be in the parade, whatever. And I was just in the fence, and this cute little boy comes talking to me, and he said, "Are you gonna ride a Jeep?" And I said, "I'm riding a truck." Well, he was riding a sheep, not a Jeep. So it was kind of cute, and he was so excited. He was right. Anyway, but good luck. I'm sure you're doing. This is where you wanna, where your heart is, where your apartment. So
Thank you.
we understand that. Thank you for all you did, and we wish you the best.
Thank you.
Cool. Okay. Now, next item, number 21.
21, consideration and approval of the certified local government grant contract for the year 2024 through 2024 with the State of Utah Department of Culture and Community Engagement and San Juan County for a structural assessment and possible repairs to the St. Christopher's Mission Historic Clinic program. This project here was, we had our historic commission, which is a part of the county, which we fund every year, kind of a small amount of funds that we allocate to them to continue to preserve the history of San Juan County. They had applied for a grant in partnership with, let me find this, so it's the Restoration Works International, the Restoration Works International, which is a nonprofit that's already been working with St. Christopher's Mission. They had agreed and had sought other private funding, received $5,000. So as they applied to the state of Utah for an additional $5,000 to perform this study on the old clinic there, which is a historic clinic that has served our population since the establishment of St. Christopher's Mission. They wanted to do some work. They had engineers that could go through and do the structural assessment and structural drawings. They just needed a little bit extra money. So they reached out to the state, applied for this $5,000 grant, were awarded it. And so now, as they were going through this process, Restoration Works International continued with the project in hopes that they would get the money, not knowing, but now that we've got it, it's just about following through on the paperwork and the documentation for the project. And so this does have to come through the commission for approval and acceptance, and then they will help me on the back end on the reporting. And we will just, once the funds come in from the state of Utah, we will just be transferring those out to pay for the engineering that was done on this. We're grateful that the Historic Commission is kind of out there as an extra arm working on these historic projects throughout our county that are county related projects. And so we definitely want to continue to support their efforts, but applaud them for their willingness to sit down and take time to draft a grant and go after additional funds for our county.
Okay. Commissioners?
I'll make a motion that we approve the grant as it has been explained.
I'll second the motion.
Motion by Commissioner Adams, second by Commissioner Stubbs. That whole building is sandstone, isn't it? The church.
Yeah, then the
everything
roof
sandstone.
is that what they were looking at is the roof to try to rehab the roof to get it so they can use it here in the future.
There's a book that was written by Father Liebler, I believe. Book is called Boil My Heart for Me. It's
really?
a good book. Talks about St. Christopher's mission and his mission among the Dene. So check it out sometimes. Anyhow, let's vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries unanimously to approve the grant.
Okay.
All right, next
I guess
item.
we should say approve accepting the grant.
Approve accepting the grant so that we can hand it down, right?
Yeah.
Item number 22.
Okay, this one here is consideration and approval for a competitive grant award between San Juan County and the State of Utah Department of Public Safety, Bureau of Emergency Medical Services for $84,105 for the county EMS program. Each year, the county has, our EMS department has applied for and received grant funds as the state continues to allocate a small portion of money towards the EMS support. Last year, we received $64,000. This year I kind of upped the request to $84,105. There's not a match requirement with this. What this grant allows us to do is continue, we can apply the grant to personnel costs, so salaries, as well as equipment. In this year's grant, I also placed just when asking and trying to develop the scope and what the need would be, placed in there just the mentioning that, you know, we really do have to work on the career path for our EMTs. So as we get an EMT basic, it's trying to get them elevated into an EMT advanced. We have a lot of advanced on our crew already. And really what we're seeking is the paramedic. We need more paramedics. I think right now on our staffing we have around 2. And those 2 are competitive with other jobs within this region, so it makes it a little bit difficult. But we really need to try to get more of the advanced moving up into the paramedics. Once you get into that paramedic field, it takes several years to become a paramedic. A lot of hands-on training, a lot of partnering with the hospitals, and similar to residency on a doctor, they also have to go in and perform residency hours in the medical field as well. But it would really be nice to try to get some of those advanced up into that paramedic field. And so I'm hoping with the additional funds here as we can start to either pay for or kind of have a little bit more of an incentive program to get our EMTs up into the paramedic field. Once you have the paramedic, it's a little bit easier to operate. We utilize our paramedics for the advanced training here, but they also come with it a little bit higher educated and a little bit more professionalism in the system. And so I'm hoping that we can utilize these grant funds for that type of a program. And so, but either way, at the end, if nobody signs up, it's kind of one of those personal things. If you don't want to be a paramedic, you're not going to be a paramedic. And no matter what you try to do to convince them to go through this higher level of education, they may not want to. But even if that's the case, we still can use these funds for the personnel costs and equipment on there. And so there is an opportunity. We always need equipment, you know, whether it's the pants that you put on patients that shock them or the defibrillators and systems like that are constantly in need of. And so we can definitely spend these funds. But where it was no matching, we applied for it, and then we will continue to apply as years come. We're hoping this year, as we try to make some changes at the state legislators to try to fund more into EMS now that it's under the public safety. I think we have a stronger argument, especially with Darren being at the helm. He can speak that from the commission side, where he was a former commissioner in Bayou County and now is responsible for EMS. He lives and breathes this and can speak it, I think, a little bit more clearly to the state legislators. And so they're hoping for more funding in the future because they understand that throughout the whole entire state of Utah and probably the nation, EMS is one of those things that is lacking funds across the board.
It's nice to have a former commissioner because they understand the need of the small counties, you know.
Yes.
And we had distance where up north, I mean, cities are 10 minutes from each other, 20 minutes, so they can assist. But anyway, yeah, it's nice to see him in the meetings.
Right, commissioners? Do we want to approve and accept the grant or accept the
I'll
grant?
make a motion to approve and accept the grant.
Motion by Commissioner Stubbs.
I'll second that.
Second by Commissioner Adams. Any other comments or questions, commissioners? Okay.
Well, I think this is a welcoming money, and I agree with what Mac was talking about, and we just need to, there's not many volunteers that helping with EMS, so we have to do some professional training so they can have it's an incentive to attract new workers. Thank you.
That's a nice increase in the grant amount too,
Yeah, it
Max.
is.
So thank you. All right, let's take a vote. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, that's 3 in favor. Motion passes unanimously. Our final, or actually our next item,
Next item,
number 23.
So consideration and approval for the merchant account agreement between Select Bank Card, Mission Valley Bank, FFB Bank, and San Juan County. This one here, so we contract with JCI, who performs our billing services for those patients that ride on our ambulance system. They had been trying for a couple years now to work with counties that contract with JCI to have a system online where individuals can pay by credit card. San Juan County is one of the last on their list that hasn't signed up for that, and so this agreement allows us to establish this banking system where patients can go on, pay their bill online, and then JCI will automatically credit to their account and then send us those funds after they pay the JCI bill. And so, and all of this is kind of under a San Juan County umbrella where JCI works on our behalf. Instead of us having to have staff do the billing, we have JCI do it. JCI feels that by having this system in place to be able to take online payments, that we will be a couple of things quicker. The individuals will be quicker to pay their bill, but also they won't have to continue to hound the individuals to make their payments. So whether it's a first month notice, second month you're delayed, and wait for a check or a money order to be mailed to them. This way the individuals can go on, automatically pay online with their debit or credit card and make the payment and get that off of our books and back in to support the MS program a lot quicker than waiting for the mail, the post. And so the only ones, and it just kind of prefaces the reason I'm bringing this to you, is you should always be super leery about these other outside accounts that are created outside of the treasurer office. This one here, the only ones that'll have access to the account is JCI, but it'll be set up under our name so that if we ever have to transfer, say for example, JCI in the future isn't awarded our billing contract and we have to shift to another company, that where this is under the county's name, we can then transfer it to the new billing company and have them place the system online. But the only ones that'll be able to access the funds with this is JCI under this current agreement.
I'll make a motion, we approve.
I'll second.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to approve, second by Commissioner Stubbs. Any other comments or questions, commissioners?
No, I have no question.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a vote. All those in favor to approve?
Aye.
Aye. That's 3 in favor. Motion passes unanimously. Okay, looks like we're on to our next item, commission reports. So, welcome to start, whoever wants to start.
I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead, Commissioner
Anyway,
Stubbs.
this last Friday, I had the opportunity to go to Money Valley. USU was breaking ground for the new building, and it was just a nice ceremony, and we had lots of good speakers, lots of good support for the event. I always, that was my former life. Working for CU at USU, and while I was there, I had the opportunity to reflect. The students used to come. Just about all the students used to hitchhike from the reservation coming to school. And I had a mom they had two babies, and she was hitchhiking with two babies. And we had students that were, many that were hitchhiking, and we came up with the opportunity to buy the building, the old hospital. And four of us went and opened the doors of this old hospital that had been closed for many years. And it was an interesting experience because it's like that day the people just walk out. They just took the gowns and the operation table. They, whatever they did, they just walk out. It was empty for many years, and we were so happy to have this opportunity for our students to have a place. And in Money Valley, and that building has served the people really well. And now to see a new beginning where they can have a building where they can, the students from the high school there, it's next to the high school, so they just cross across the parking lot and they can be having college classes. We had talked with members of USU from here in Logan about having opportunity of certificates. And so I just think what a wonderful journey is. And while I'm there, I was at the school and got to see some of my former students. They went from young looking to being older, and they're still teaching and they're at high school. And I just, it was a very emotional realization of the opportunity they're gonna have there, having that campus. And I want to tell you about one of the moms that used to come from Money Valley with two little babies. She's a counselor now. She went to University of Utah and she has a degree, and she's a counselor on her old campus. And that's such a thing to see. Anyway, one thing that we have in the making that we, UNAMI went to a new program. It's a higher program, and it's called 45G now, and they have more funds. And we are planning to bring a formal workshop, and we're going to invite the mayors from Blanding and Monticello and other communities. Basically, we're going to bring a cohort of business. They're going to come and do presentations about what they do, and it's all based on future energy, and it had to do with kind of resources we have here in San Juan County with the rare earth minerals. And so it's going to be an amazing presentation. I went to one, and they have, one of the presentation was, do not burn the coal. And so this company came and show us all the stuff they do with coal. They do bricks and all these amazing things. So we're gonna have that, and it probably be in the fall, where we're gonna bring this cohort of business, people that already are in the business and they wanna bring business to San Juan County. We also have talked about the idea with the same group of people having a drone type of business where things like suppose in the medical field, where they can send medication or supplies to the different clinics within the San Juan County. And so when I was presenting that to Ojero chapter, they made a comment that drums are not allowed in the reservation, so that was kind of like a downer. But then in talking to the president chapter on a phone call, he called me last week. We were talking about this, and he said we had to have a permit. So if you have a business permit, it can be done. Anyway, so that's the exciting things. For this week, I'm traveling Wednesday. I'm gonna meet with some people in Moab about some ideas I have, and also going to the 7-county coalition meeting in Price. And I'll come back on Thursday for the drive back. We're not having the planning Sony meeting, so I'll go to the concert. And then also I'll be working on the fair with the Child Justice Center. They're gonna have a booth. And I think on Friday they'll be there like 5 or 6 hours and the same amount of hours on Saturday. So that'll be my contribution to the fair, going to the fair. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stubbs. Commissioner Adams?
I went with USIP to Louisville for a training. And we, as one of the activities that they had besides the meetings, we were taken on a tour of Churchill Downs. That was pretty interesting. I think Churchill Downs is about as big as the city limits of Monticello.
Really?
It
Wow.
was huge,
That's cool.
but it was fun to go see it. I had pictured it being out away from the city, but it was right in the city. And it was interesting. Other than that, I just want to encourage everybody to participate in the fair this week. Lots going on. Last night was the fundraiser for the wrestling team. They had Navajo tacos. They were almost as good as you find on the res. But a lot of good things going on. Great concert coming up Thursday night. And that's about all I have to report.
Thank you, Commissioner Adams. For my report, we actually met with Navajo Nation Fire. I think it's Fire Department. Mac, and also our fire,
David Gallego.
David Gallegos. And we just had a discussion about Navajo Nation's interest in assuming some of the county's assets. I think their biggest attention is down in Monument Valley, being able to assume the fire station and some of the fire trucks that the revitalization fund had purchased in the past. And I think what they're preparing for is having more response, because recently Navajo Nation purchased Gouldings, and probably because of the high tourism in the community, they want to be able to have adequate fire response. Initially, in my mind, I was thinking emergency medical services, and when I came to the meeting, it was more fire department focus. And so I think at this point, what we're going to be doing is kind of reviewing what the county has, sharing kind of overview of the inventory. And we have a follow-up meeting that I think is scheduled in September, right? Is it September? Navajo Nation is going to be hosting. I think at that meeting, we're going to be looking at what county assets that is going to be considered by the Navajo Nation, and what the timelines look like at that time in regards to what it'll take to work on the leases the county has with the district, I think, and then what Navajo Revitalization has inventoried for fire trucks and such. So it's an initial discussion that we had a meeting on, and it's continuing. And I think for the most part, if the Navajo Nation's able to do a group that's more responsive, that's available, I think the biggest selling point is Navajo Nation wants to staff their facilities with personnel, and so that's and probably even fund those individuals at those facilities. So as opposed to being volunteer, it'll be staffed and paid for by the nation. So I think that's actually a benefit should Navajo Nation really proceed in getting that completed. So I think for the most part, Monument Valley is on their radar. They're considering Aneth, but it'll probably take some more effort and more meetings. So, but that was our first meeting we had. We also had met with Navajo Nation Department of Transportation last week on Monday. TJ, Mac, myself, we traveled down to, they had Cebanito, that's the name, Cebanito, New Mexico, which is just east of Window Rock, probably like 5 miles from the state line. They have a building there. Looks like they built their building in a floodplain because there's a lot of mud in the parking lot. But Navajo Nation was there. I don't think BIA was there, were they? So it was mainly just Navajo Nation staff, Department of Transportation staff. They actually thought we were San Juan, New Mexico. And we had to explain to them we're San Juan, Utah. Because they were telling us about funding that San Juan received for a bridge. And we're like, cool. But they were talking about someplace in New Mexico. But I think for the most part, the biggest accomplishments were twofold. The first was Navajo Nation had been considering back pay for the county, and there had been some financial communication issues. We were finally able to obtain the correct account number that we can use to charge the nation in the services that were rendered for the past couple of years. So if I understood the discussion correctly, we're going to be paid by the nation for the past couple of years. So that'll be a big benefit. The second discussion was in regards to the roads and the contract that we have in place with NDOT. I think the county prepared the bus routes, the current bus routes that the nation needed to consider as part of the contract. I think the biggest obstacle has always been that any road, when it comes to the word improvement, is that improvement? They're really pressing on the requirement for getting the road to have the right of way, the biological studies, arc assessments. Then you can improve a road. But for now, I think the contract that we have, the county has with the nation, is just dirt roads and just maintaining them, dragging dirt across the road back and forth. So, but at least we have some maintenance for the school bus routes, trying to keep them maintained throughout the year. Fall is coming, we've got winter to look towards, and just making sure those routes are safe for the students. So, but that was a positive meeting. We got some cards. and I think they're willing to meet with us on a quarterly basis moving forward. So I believe our next meeting was going to be in October. October. So that was a good meeting. I believe there's going to be a Bears Ears Advisory Committee meeting on Thursday this week. They're having a meeting, and I think the public's able to attend that meeting to listen in. I'm sure they're going to be talking about which plan they're going to be recommending, or maybe talking about the public comments to those proposed plans for the monument. There was another meeting I also was able to attend the San Juan County Public Health Board meeting last week. The board is reviewing the director's annual performance evaluation. So they're going to be talking about that. I think all of the employees in the public health department returned their personal comments. So now it's just looking over the scores and talking about all the employees' comments. So that's coming up. And I think I don't have any major meetings coming up this month. We do have a grant meeting for the economic development, right? The federal grant that we received for
Yes, you and I do. Yes,
Yep.
that's correct. Economic mobility grant.
economic mobility grant. And they provided some tools when we were at the NACO conference, being able to access some data, economic data. I'm sure we're going to be asked some questions about that, so I need to go through and navigate that. But our county is a recipient of those economic mobility funds to help create an economic plan. And I think we're going to have our second meeting. And isn't it a month-to-month meeting that
It's
we're
a
having?
quarterly meeting
Or it's actually quarterly.
for like 2 years. So yeah.
So it's a
Big
big undertaking, but the fact that the federal government has looked to our county to be recipients of this planning grant is huge. So I think Mac and I are going to be involved with how the federal government would like to see our information be prepared so that we can be more competitive. I think that's the only other items I just wanted to share with everyone. Of course, this month the chapters are meeting, and a chapter is meeting, Red Mesa Mexican Water chapter on Tista's bus. So I'll be making my rounds, going out to visit and kind of give updates on our in-dot discussions. So I think that's all I have, Commissioners. So thank you.
I have a question about the economic development, economic,
Mobility project.
because I just got a notice for NACO that I am in the economic,
Steering committee.
yeah.
Yeah.
Can we both participate in those meetings, or we conflict of interest?
No, that one. So the steering committee is county and county throughout the nation, and
Okay.
so
Okay,
that's kind of like, so Commissioner Adams is set on the public lands steering
Yeah.
committee. Commissioner
wasn't
Harvey
it.
is on that health and human services, and so
yeah,
the grant project is similar to how you did with the International City and County Management Association.
yeah,
It's the same, that we have him just under the county
okay.
umbrella, and so you can certainly attend if you want. And so
Commissioner, you were in the economic in the state one. You did the land and you did, which is the second one you did? That was in
RAC, Rural Action Caucus.
Okay, rural, okay.
Yeah, and so I'm glad you signed up for that one because that was pretty instrumental, and hopefully we can get Commissioner Adams to sign up on. Did you sign up for the public lands? Okay, good, because
Yeah.
one of the questions that I had of Brandy with UAC was, well, we have a new incoming commissioner. How do we get her up there as well? And it was through Commissioner Adams where he signs up for that 4 year. He'll leave in 2, and then she can come in.
Well, nice that we still have Randy though, even though he's a national.
Yeah. That public lands. That's well, even the Health and Human Services where they're talking about SRS funds. All of these committees that you're now signing up for are so critical to be a part of and be active, engaged, and tell our story, because that's where they hear it. And that's, I mean, back in NACO, as I was watching on the public lands, a lot of eastern counties don't understand the problems that we face out here, and it was really those Utah rural commissioners that were up there really fighting and saying, hey, no, we need these resolutions passed. And so,
And you know, one of the things they don't understand, they're the ones trying to pass laws, this all electric vehicles. Okay, where do we get the money for the roads? Where do we
Yeah.
get money for the roads?
yeah, from
From
fuel.
the oil.
Yeah,
From the oil.
yeah.
So if nobody's buying gasoline,
Yes.
who's gonna fix the roads? And so, but I appreciate you guys meeting with and getting answer about our roads down south, because that's one question that when I was campaigning, the roads.
Roads are big.
The other day, at 1:00 in the morning, an email, a messenger post came from a person that was telling me about the roads, how the school gonna start, and so I had talked to her a little bit, but I had dealt with the idea of roads for many, many years. I used to work with supervise the Head Start program and train personnel for the Head Start program. We had the state of Utah coming up for all this money for us to do more Head Start program. There's reservation, but we can only, because of the road situation, we can only do children close to the main roads, because we could not have 3 and 4 year old stuck in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
There was no cell phone in those days, so it have been really hard. So the roads have been, it is an issue, and I think sometimes, even though one of her sentiment is she wished the roads can be managed by the county. And so hopefully there'll be something that we can come into an understanding of.
Yeah. That was a good NDOT meeting.
So
And so-
this, I think, is good progress,
Mhm.
really good progress. So
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're done with commission reports, so we'll move on to our next item.
I make a motion, we go into executive session to discuss the character, professional competence, and physical and mental health of individual as permitted under the law.
Motion by Commissioner Adams to go into executive session.
1 second, I wanna say that we welcome the mayor